Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back after a long time because we started this batch, uh, I think 2 weeks before, and we already covered the first three modules. If this is the first time you are attending the training, so you can watch the previous module. Those are available publicly. And the Google Drive is open, so you can watch that lectures and you can cover this. I will keep it very simple today. Today we are going to start module number 4, and in this module we will cover vCenter server. That is the main objective of module number 4. So before moving into the deep dive of this vCenter server architecture and all these details, um, I will explain a little bit of what we covered previously. So basically, we have server hardware, right? And on each hardware, we have ESXi hypervisor installed already. That is something we covered in module number 3 already, and I can show you as well. So these are the things we covered in module number 3. How you can install ESXi hypervisor and all these things were discussed. So let me just show you my lab. So I have total 4 ESXi hosts in my lab. I have 4 hardwares. This one is hardware number 175, and ESXi hypervisor is installed. I have another hardware which has ESXi version 9 installed. The latest version is ESXi 9. When I started, it was ESXi 5.5 back in 2014. But today we will be but in this course, we will be focusing on ESXi 9. This is my another host. So I have ESXi host 1, ESXi host 2. I have another host, which is this one, right? So this one is the third host. Let me log in to this host as well. That's it. So this one is the third host. When I say host, it means the hypervisor, the hardware which has ESXi installed. Let me log into the other host, the fourth one. The fourth one is 192.168.1.178. So this one is 178, right? And this is all my lab, right? We have how many hosts? ESXi 1. The IP address is 175. That is the management IP. I have ESXi 2, 176, ESXi 3, 177, ESXi 4, and 178. And I do have a management PC. So this is my management PC, right? The one you are showing, this one. Uh, this machine is my management PC, and I open the browser, which is connected to the same network, and you can see I have 4 ESXi hypervisor. This is my whole environment. Let's say if I have to deploy some applications, right? What are the steps? I will log into one of the hosts. I will click here and I will create a virtual machine. What is virtual machine? That is something we will discuss in upcoming modules, but just to give you an overview. And we will create a virtual machine here. So it means that I will have to manage each ESXi host individually. So what is the role of vCenter server? If you have multiple ESXi hosts and you are managing them individually, that might be difficult for you as an administrator. So in today's topic, we will be focusing on vCenter server. So vCenter server is basically an administration tool, or you can say it's a centralized administration application or whatever you call it, right? That is the vCenter server simple definition. So what we will be doing here in this module, we will learn how to install this application on any of this host. And then from here, we will log into our vCenter server. And then we will add all these hosts to vCenter server. And we will manage them by a single dashboard. So that's the main idea or the whole concept. So vCenter server is the administration tool, you can say. Uh, Before I start, I want to give you uh, my personal story. I want to share it with you guys. When I was learning vCenter server back in 2014, right? So just give me 1 minute. I think the pant is not okay. When I started back in 2014, it was vCenter 5.5, right? And our teacher told us that vCenter server has two flavors: Windows based vCenter server and Linux based vCenter server. That is the, the history I'm explaining. In Windows based vCenter server, there would be two options available. One was physical machine, right? And the second story was virtual machine. And in Linux based vCenter server, it was virtual appliance. What is virtual appliance? I will explain it. But let's start with this one, the physical machine and virtual machine story. Let's say we are in 2014 and we have to deploy vCenter server, right? That is our job. So what we would do, let's say if we are planning to deploy vCenter server on physical machine directly. So we would connect a machine, for example, Dell hardware, whatever hardware you have, and then we would connect that hardware to the network. On top of the hardware server 2012, let's say, and then on top of that server 2012, we would install vCenter server 5.5 version. That was the backend story. That was option number one. Install operating system on the hardware Then download the vCenter server ISO file, open it, and install the application. And then we would install vCenter server on Windows Server. For example, this machine IP address is 168.1.180, for example. So from this management PC, we would open this vCenter server, right? And then we would add all these hosts to the vCenter server. That was option number one. Option number two, let me write option one, right? In option two, the same story. vCenter server would be installed on Windows Server, but instead of physical machine, first we would create a virtual machine on any of these four hosts, and then we would install Windows Server 2012, and then vCenter would be installed here. So that was option number two in 2014, right? What is the third option? The third option is to download a ready-made virtual machine from VMware site. So that VM would be already, the operating system would already be installed on that virtual machine. For example, in 2014, SUSE Linux OS would be installed on the VM already, and vCenter server application would be running. So as an administrator, what would be our job? We would simply deploy this appliance on any of the host, right? And then we would log into the vCenter server, and then we would add all these hosts to the vCenter server. So this one is Windows-based vCenter server, Windows-based vCenter server, and this one is Linux-based. Okay, one more thing you should keep in mind that if your vCenter server is running on Windows server or it is running on Linux-based, the front end or the interface would be same. There would be no difference in that case. Then in 2015, uh, I was learning 6.0. Then I learned 6.5, then 6.7. And after 6.7, the Windows-based vCenter server option was removed. And even the SUSE Linux operating system was promoted to Proton OS, right? So if you are planning to deploy vCenter server in vSphere 9, right, the current course, so you don't need to worry about the Windows Server vCenter option because this option is not available anymore. Currently, that was the backend story, right? In vCenter Server 9, we only have one option available, Linux-based virtual appliance. This appliance has Proton OS installed, and this appliance has vCenter Server application installed. So it's a ready-made virtual machine, right? It is a ready-made virtual machine which has Photon OS installed, and vCenter server is already running, right? This is the Photon OS and vCenter server is running. So what is our job? I mean, what are the steps we need to perform? We just need to deploy this vCenter server here on one of the hosts. That is our topic today. That how we can deploy vCenter server on any of the host. So if you have 4 ESXi host here, you can see here, I have host 1, 2, 3, 4. So step number 1, this is you. This is the administrator. This administrator will download the ISO file of the vCenter server, open that ISO file and deploy the vCenter server appliance on any of the hosts. Once it is deployed, log into the vCenter server appliance and configure it based on your scenario. Configuration means assign IP address, specify host name, and then access log into vCenter server and then start adding the host and you are good to go. What are the benefits of vCenter server? If I ask you people that what are the benefits of deploying vCenter server, can someone just post it in the chat or maybe if you can speak up?
इसमें
We
ये
can
होता है वीएम ऑप्शन के थ्रू हम एक हाइपरवाइजर से दूसरे हाइपरवाइजर वीएम ट्रांसफर कर सकते हैं साइमल्टेनियसली, ये सेंट्रलाइज मैनेज कर सकते हैं, तो
Okay,
एक ये होता है।
that's a very good point. Any other point? Mr. Atif, Hassan, Iftikhar.
सर इसके थ्रू हम माइग्रेशन कर सकते हैं। फॉर एग्जांपल हमारे पास ESXi है, 2 ESXi हैं और हम इसकी माइग्रेशन कर सकते हैं, करें तो इसकी माइग्रेशन हाई अवेलेबिलिटी भी कर सकते हैं,
Yep.
DRS
So,
फीचर भी इसकी।
yep. You all are right. Yep. Thank you. Basically, when you deploy vCenter server, it means that you have unlocked the feature, vMotion feature, storage vMotion, right? These are the main features of this product. vSphere, DRS, vSphere HA, vSphere FT, vSphere distributed switch, vSphere clusters, templates. These options or features will only be available if you have vCenter server deployed. Otherwise, if you don't want to deploy vCenter server, then not you will not get any of these features, but you can still log into your host like I am doing right now. You can see here. I have host 1, host 2, host 3, host 4, and I'm using it. You can see here, right? I think one of the host is timeout, but I can log into the host again. Are you getting my point? Any question? Okay. I'm coming to the slides, but I'm focusing more on the practical work today, and tomorrow we can discuss the architecture and all these things. Okay, one more thing. As you know that in vCenter Server 9 deployment is easy than vCenter 5.5. And I always tell this story to each batch. In 2014, I was a student and we completed vSphere 5.5 training. And for 1 year, I was trying to deploy vCenter 5.5 and I tried 1 year and I was not able to deploy it. because of the available resources. Even I didn't know how to search the issue on the internet. And even I was, when I tried to contact my trainer, he would say, okay, let's connect coming Saturday for 30 minutes. And I would wait for the whole week. And then before that meeting time, 5 minutes early, he would just message that I'm busy with my family and that's it. So what I did, I enrolled myself again in 2015 and then I learned how to deploy vCenters. So basically, the simple story is that nowadays the deployment process is very easy. One more thing, in future, because you will be working in the production environment, there is another option also available. That is called, let me search it for you, vSphere 9 SDDC Manager. Sorry, that is something we will be also discussing in the next thing. This one, SDDC Manager. So we can also use this tool for some of the deployment tasks. SDDC Manager, that is something available in the latest version. It was not available in the previous product, right? So that is something now we will be also focusing in upcoming modules. So you can also use this tool and you can deploy vCenter server. Okay, let me tell you another story because I love to share stories. vCenter 5.5 components. I want to, because I have many memories with vCenter 5.5, so which is why I want to share those stories. You can see here in vCenter server 5.5, there would be 5 components, right? Let's say these are the 5 components. So let's say you are working on a project and you are planning to deploy vCenter server. First, we would deploy vCenter server single sign-on, configure it. After that, vSphere web client, and then inventory, and then vCenter server. So this complete package would call vCenter 5.5. And there were 2 deployment options available. For example, if you have 4 hosts, so there would be option like you can deploy one component on one host, another component on other host, another component on other host. So this deployment was also possible. And the second method was embedded deployment. Like a single appliance would be deployed and all these 4 components would be available in a single appliance. Now coming to vCenter 6.5 components. Now you can see the 4 components were merged into 2 components, right? So these are the 2 components. You can see here vCenter server, sorry, these are not the 2 components. These are the 2 components. You can see that is the, let me delete the one so that you can understand it easily. So that is the vCenter server 6.5 story. And this one is the vCenter 5.5. Now you can see here In vCenter 5.5, there were 4 components. In vCenter 6.5, they merged these 4 components into 2. So platform services controller and vCenter server. Again, there were 2 deployment options available. For example, if you have ESXi host 1 and you have ESXi host 2 and you have vSXi host 3. Option 1, deploy platform services controller separately on this one, right? Or maybe an embedded mode. Then deploy vCenter server and connect it with this one. So, sorry, in 6.5, the separate deployment option was removed, but again, there were options available. For example, if you have multiple vCenter server, so there was an option available that a single platform services controller would be deployed, this one, and it would be connected with multiple vCenter server. Sorry, just like this one. What does it mean? Platform services controller was the same SSO thing. You know SSO, single sign-on. Just like when you log into Gmail, you only type your username and password once, and you get access to Google Drive, Gmail, Google Form, Google Classroom. So all the multiple services are available on a single login. So that is called single sign. In vCenter Server 9, you don't have to worry about these things, right? There is only one single appliance, which is this one. Just deploy that appliance and you are good to go, right? Now, let's come to the lab. In today's lab, what are our main objective? We will be doing 2 steps. Stage number 1, deploy vCenter server. Stage 2, setup. Once these 2 steps are done, the vCenter server would be ready. So, as a system administrator or the virtualization administrator, first thing is to download the vCenter server ISO file. I have already downloaded this and I will upload it to your Google Drive, and so you can download it from your Google Drive and you can also do practice on that. So as you can see here, I have this vCenter server ISO image. When you open that ISO image, that is the main file, this one, the 8.55 GB file. This is the complete vCenter server appliance. Option number 1, log into any of the host. For example, this is the host ESXi 175. Click on this button and deploy a virtual machine from an OVF or OVA file. Then select that file, the one you have, the VCSA, and select this file, give it a name, click, 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 and this vCenter will be deployed. Log into this appliance and configure it, and your vCenter server will be ready. But this is not a good practice. We do have this tool available. There are 2 tools available, vCSA CLI installer, and the second tool is vCSA UI installer. These are the 2 tools available. To be very honest, I have not worked on the CLI one because everything you can perform on UI installer. So if you are doing the same thing, you will be opening this VCSA UI installer, right? You will see three folders here: Linux, MacBook, Windows. What does it mean? If this machine has Ubuntu installed or Mac installed or Windows installed, it depends on that. So for example, if Windows is installed, you will open the Win32 folder. If this is the Linux machine, then you will open the Linux folder. The installation steps are same. The vCenter deployment process is same, but it only depends on which management PC you have. So as you can see here, we have this Windows 32 folder. I mean, this is the Windows operating system, the my management PC. So I will open this folder and there is a file available, installer. You can simply open this file. When you open this file, you will see three options: install, upgrade, restore. Install mean deployment of new vCenter server. Upgrade mean you have ESXi 8 installed and vCenter 8 is already installed and you are planning to upgrade your vCenter server. So we do have a module in which we will learn how we can upgrade our environment from vCenter 8 to vCenter 9. What is the third option? Restore. If you already have a backup available of the previous vCenter server, you can restore it using this button. But since we are doing the new fresh deployment, so we will be focusing on install button. When you click install, you can see two steps. Stage number 1, deploy vCenter server, set up vCenter server. So this option is already checked and available. So we will click next. You can read this agreement and you can click next. Now, what does it mean? As you can see here, we have 175 host, we have 176, 177, and 178. So it's totally up to you where you want to deploy vCenter server. So I have decided that I will be deploying this vCenter on 175, and then you can write the username and password of that host, right? Any question here before I click next? Okay, no question so far. Let's move forward. When you click next, right, it will give you another option, like give it a name. This is not the vCenter name. This is the name of the virtual machine which will be deployed here. So you can assign any name, for example, vCenter 9, and what will be the password of the vCenter server appliance? This is the password of this Photon operating system, this one. Let me write here. As you know that this appliance has Photon OS installed and it has a default username root and you are planning to assign password. So for example, I will use the default password. So that is the password. You should keep in mind that this is not the vCenter server login credentials. These credentials will be used to log in on the Photon operating system. Does it make sense? This is not the vCenter server username and password. Like you can see here, root password. So keep in mind, vCenter login credentials are different. So you can set password. Actually, if you are doing the vCenter deployment using this tool, the good thing is before deployment, you can define your settings like IP address, what will be the IP address, what will be the password, what will be the host name. So all these things you configured before deployment. So that is the good thing in the latest version of vCenter server. When you are okay with this, you can simply click next. Once you click next, then you will see different sizes. If you are working on the big environment, for example, if they have 1,000+ ESXi host, then you will be focusing on extra large. I have worked with a company and they had 850 ESXi host. I was working on a project and they had 850 ESXi. That was the big company I worked for, the large organization. Since we are doing on the lab thing, so we will select the tiny version. I mean, you can select it from here. If you are planning to take the official VMware exam, there is a question regarding the different sizes. Maybe if you are taking the interview, the interviewer will ask you that if you have 50 ESXi host, which vCenter size would you recommend? So then you can say small should work because it you can manage that much host. I think you should be good here. You can click next. When you click next, you will see the available data stored on that specific host. We have this one, and I think if you don't know about thin disk, then select this right now. We will discuss it in detail. And when you click next, these are the settings. If you have DNS server available, you can create uh, FQDN or DNS record with this name in your DNS. If you don't have DNS server in your lab, then you can simply write any IP address. So this will be the IP address of the vCenter server. Since I already have a DNS server available and I already updated a record, so I will use this one. But if you don't have the DNS server, then you can put the IP address in this portion, right? Subnet mask 24, default gateway is this one. I already have DNS available. If you don't have DNS server, you can put Google IP. So these are the configuration before deployment. And when you click next, right, and you click finish, the stage one will be started, right? It might take much time, or maybe in your case, less time, depends on your available resources, depend on your storage type. If it is SSD, the deployment will be fast. If the disk of that host are HDDs, then the deployment would be slow. So let me take a break. So basically, If you want to do the deployment piece on your personal laptop, you got an option. Let's say if you have this laptop, right? So what you can do here, you might have Windows 11 or 10, I'm assuming, and you can install VMware Workstation, right? When you install VMware Workstation, up you can create a virtual machine and you can install ESXi 9 on your virtual machine, right? When you do this, then you can download vCenter ISO on this machine, and you already have this host ready. For example, you can simply deploy this host here, this vCenter appliance. Sorry, here is that, like this. You can deploy it here. Uh, this is option number one. If you are doing this lab on the VMware workstation. Option number two, you can manually deploy the vCenter server here directly. So you can also run this virtual machine directly on the VMware workstation, just for home lab purpose, right? Not for production. How is my lab? I also have a single hardware. I don't have four different hosts. I have one Dell server hardware and I already installed ESXi on this hardware. I think I explained it earlier as well, but I will explain it now again. So I already have ESXi hypervisor installed and I got four hosts here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I just deployed the vCenter appliance. This is the lab I'm doing right. I could also deploy it directly on this hypervisor as well. Right, and you can see this is the process. And sorry, 175 is the host, which will be hosting the vCenter server appliance. Let me log in here so that you can see here a VM is already created on top of this one. See, so this is the host which has my vCenter server appliance deploying right now. So I hope you got my point. If you are planning to do this, that is the steps. If you don't want to, if you don't have lab, so as I explained that, you have this VMware HOL thing available. VMware HOL has already configured lab available. You can destroy that lab and you can create it for yourself as well. So that is something you can do it, right? That's the story. Let me pause for a while again. So when you log into VMware HOL, you can search for this lab. This is the beginner lab. It has already vCenter server deployed. You can log into that. You can add additional host. There are 2 hosts already added, but the total lab has 3 um, hosts available. I think There must be some option where you can see the details about the whole lab. I think there must be something available right here, but that is the story, right? So we will be focusing on more here. Let's wait for this and then we can continue. So as you can see here, finally stage one is completed and you can also see an instruction that we have to use this port number because the vCenter is not set up yet. We just deployed it. If you want to close this window, that's fine. You can simply open the browser. You can write the vCenter server FQDN or IP address and use 5480 port number. That's the default port number. Once you open this, right, it will give you this interface and it will ask for username and password. So root is already written here and you should type the same password which you configured or set up during deployment of the vCenter server, before the deployment of the vCenter server appliance. So basically, we are just logging into the WAMI interface or maybe the appliance interface. Once you log in here, right? So you will see these three options. So our option is this one because we are configuring a new vCenter server. So click the setup button. Once you click here, stage one is already completed, as you see. Now we are in stage number 2. When you click next, verify the settings. Looks good to me. Time synchronization mode. So I already have an NTP server available. So I will write my NTP server IP address. If you don't have NTP server in your environment, you can put any online NTP server details here and you can click next. Once you click next, you will see two options here. So let's wait for it. Sometime it takes time, depends on your lab resources or requirement. Okay. Create a new SSO domain and join an existing one. What does it mean? The first option will be used if this is the first time you are deploying vCenter server. What is the second option? For example, you already have vCenter deployed, the vCenter SSO piece and the vCenter application itself, and you want to use the same SSO, the identity service for the new vCenter server, then you can select this button, but you will have to provide the previous, the already existing SSO domain details. Why we need multiple vCenter deployment? There are many use cases. Maybe you have seen already in some organizations, they have multiple vCenter server, or maybe they have multiple data centers. And for each data center, a separate vCenter is deployed. And if you want them to be in a single SSO domain, we can also call it linked mode. Linked mode. This is a mode we will discuss later on, right? Linked mode means that you will only log in once to a single vCenter server and you will see all the vCenter server instances of the same SSO or the linked mode thing. And I believe in the previous version, vCenter 8, 15 vCenter servers could be linked together. And if you ask me how many hosts a single vCenter can manage, It depends on the size of the vCenter server. So let's say your vCenter server can manage 2000 hosts. You can deploy multiple vCenter server together, 15. So it means if you have a very big environment, so then you can deploy multiple instances for vCenter server. In the new licensing model, the good thing is with the same license key, I mean, can be used for multiple vCenter server. So there is no restriction or additional license required for a separate vCenter server. In the previous version, uh, if, for example, if you have three vCenter server, you would purchase three different licenses for each vCenter server instance. But in the new licensing model, they have changed this thing. Although the prices are increased, but then this is also one of um the marketing strategy or maybe the discussion you can put in your organization or your client. You can give any name. vSphere.local is the generic name or the default name, so I will use this name and provide the password. And this will be the credential used for vCenter login. Once you put these details, administrator@vsphere.local will be the default one. You can click next and you can click next, verify the settings and finish. And you are done with vCenter server deployment. What we learned today in today's lecture, we discussed that how to deploy vCenter server, how to set up vCenter server. Once the deployment is done, from this management PC, you can log into vCenter server and then we will add all these three hosts to vCenter server and we will be done for the day. So let me pause for a while. Oh,
Okay, sir.
you can see here, guys, finally vCenter server is deployed. And now we don't need to log into each host individually. You can simply close these tabs and simply you can open a tab and write your vCenter server IP address or maybe FQDN like this without 5480 port number. You will be using 443 port number. Log into your vCenter server like this, right? Just for some reason my lab is angry today. And sorry, we will write administrator @ vSphere.local. Type the password. When you log in, you will see this interface. So this is your vCenter Server 9 dashboard, right? My lab is slow because of the resources and production environment. Everything will be good. And this is the story, right? What is the next step here? The next step is add ESXi host to your vCenter server. How you can do this? Right click on your vCenter server, create a data center. You can give it any name. This is like a virtual data center. In some cases, you will see multiple data centers. Some people use a single data center, virtual data center term, and add all the hosts to that single data center. Up to you guys. For example, I will write DC batch 39 and OK. So now I have this data center available. Now right click on this data center, click add host, make sure your ESXi hosts are accessible to this vCenter server. So you can write the IP address of your host 175. You can also add the same host which is running your vCenter server appliance. And if you are not, and if you already have DNS server configured, you can write the FQDN of your ESXi host. Since I already have DNS configured, right? So I will use, okay, Hassan, uh, this the type, use the credentials. This is one-time configuration. Once the host is added, right? Next time when you log into vCenter server, you will uh, see all the hosts are available, right? And okay, this is the okay. We will see these four options now. This is the new options are feature available in the vCenter server 9. For now, I will be using this extract the image on the host. It might take some time during the edition of the first host. That is fine. And by default, this 90 days evaluation license key would be added automatically, but you can replace it with the actual license key. That is something we will discuss in next lecture. Then you will see this option. What does it means? When you check this button, then uh, actually we are adding this host 176. So I can still log into this host directly. You can see. I just log into this host directly without vCenter server. But when you check this box, normal, the host is accessible only through local console or vCenter server. So then I would not log into this host using this ESXi host client. So this is like a security feature. When you check the strict button, this option, it means that even locally you will not be able to log into the host, but this host will only be accessible to using vCenter server. But since this is our home lab or test lab, I will go for the disable option. Click next, next, and finish. It might take time because the the image is extracting now. In your case, it will also take some time uh, for the first time actually. When you are adding another host, it will not take that much time. So that was all about today's lecture. What we learned today, we learned how to deploy vCenter server. We were able to log into vCenter server. Then we added ESXi host, and moving forward, we will do anything on this dashboard. Okay, let's discuss some of the troubleshooting option. For example, you want to change the IP address of the vCenter server, or maybe you want to change some other settings. So you will not see any options here, but you will have to log into Photon OS. So Photon OS login is also difficult. I mean, if you are not a Linux guy, then what you can do, you can use 5480 port number and you can log into this interface, which is also called WAMI interface. vCenter Server Appliance Management interface. Once you log in here, this is the appliance settings, right? You can go to networking, you can change the IP address settings, you can change the time settings, you can see the status of some services, right? You can take backup of your vCenter server. For example, this is not the backup of the whole virtual machines and all these things. This backup is only the configuration of the vCenter server, right? That is the story. So WAMI interface 5480 port number is used for this purpose. So I hope you learned something. Inshallah, see you in next lecture. Let me save the recording, but if you have, okay, so let me save it.